Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari and today we're doing another class of our Uddhava-gita series. How does this series work? I post classes here every week, and for 1 week they're available to everyone, but after that they're only available if you are a member of the channel. To watch the other classes, then make sure you become a member of the channel. I'll leave the link here in the description, the Bhakti Club. All right then, so we're doing the Uddhava-gita, and today we're starting with verse 7. What happened in the last class is that we just started, this is just the third class, and what's going on here is that Krishna is talking to Uddhava, explaining to him what's going on in the world. He's about to leave. These are Krishna's last instructions. He's about to leave the planet. In 7 days only 7 days, Krishna is leaving the planet. So he's instructing Uddhava and telling him how to prepare himself for what's coming, for Kali Yuga that's coming, this age we're living in. So he's telling him how to get ready for Kali Yuga. So let's start here with verse 7. My dear Uddhava, this is Krishna speaking again. The material universe that you perceive through your mind, speech, eyes, ears, and other senses is an illusory creation that one imagines to be real due to the influence of Maya. In fact, you should know that all of the objects of the material senses are temporary. So this is beautiful, great yoga philosophy. I mean, this is like right on, heart of yoga philosophy. So I'm going to just read it again. This is very important. The material universe you perceive, so everything we're perceiving, the material universe, material reality we are perceiving, all of this is illusory. It's not real. It's not the ultimate reality. Is it completely? I mean, it's there, right? I mean, is this like not here? Yeah, okay, so it's real in a sense. In the sense, it's not real in the sense that it's not eternal. It's not the ultimate reality. There is something behind this. There's a spiritual transcendental reality behind this. There is Krishna, there's God behind this. So it's not that it's completely unreal. It's not like, oh, I don't know, I'm just imagining here, like you just imagine, like a pink cloud made of, whatever. It's not like a complete imagination. It's not completely false, but it's not the ultimate reality. So it's all false. It's the influence of illusion that we think this is the ultimate reality. And then that's why he says the key word, everything is temporary. That's why it's not real. So when you see like Eastern philosophy in general, especially yoga philosophy, and they're talking about things not being real, you have to understand they're talking about in the ultimate sense, because it's temporary, whilst your spiritual reality is eternal. And that's what it's compared to. Purport. The question may be raised that since we find good and bad qualities throughout the material world, how can Lord Krishna advise Uddhava to see everything equally? In this verse, Krishna explains that material good and evil are a creation of the illusory energy, just as the objects of a dream are a mental creation. So if you watched last class, you'll see that in the last class, in the last verse, Krishna was telling Uddhava to just go off in the world, be detached, just see everything equally. That was the last thing he said. And now he's explaining how to see everything equally. See everything equally in the sense that it's all matter, and beyond that is the eternal spiritual reality. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Lord Krishna is actually everything, because he is present within everything, and everything is present within him. Krishna is Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Sarva, all, Loka, places, Maha, great, Ishvara, Lord, the great Lord of everything, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, the Lord and proprietor of all worlds. To see anything separate from Krishna is an illusion. And attraction to any kind of material illusion, either good or bad, is ultimately useless, since it obliges the living entity to continue wandering in its cycle of birth and death. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching constitute the activities of the 5 knowledge-gathering senses. So this is a bit of good Sankhya philosophy for you to pick up. When you say the 5 senses, you know, the 5 this is what they're talking about. That's why it's 5 actions, and then you'll see the 5 action ones. Similarly, the voice, hands, legs, anus, and genitals constitute the 5 working senses. So you'll see this 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, 5 action senses. These are the 10 that are always mentioned in Sankhya. These 10 senses are organized around the mind, which is the center of material activity. That's why the mind is either the 11th sense or the 6th sense, and not in the sense of, you know, 6th sense like we use today in modern English, but 6th sense because you have the 5 plus the mind in that sense. In that sense, that's the sense. Okay. When the living entity desires to exploit matter, he is covered by the 3 modes of nature. Thus, he concocts different philosophical, political, and social explanations of reality, but never understands the absolute truth, Lord Krishna, who is beyond the contaminated perception of the material senses. One who is entangled in the network of material designations, such as race, nationality, sectarian religion, political affiliation, etc., is absorbed in the experience of combining his body and other bodies with material sense objects, thinking these sense objects to be sources of happiness and satisfaction. Unfortunately, the entire material world, along with the senses that experience it, is a temporary creation that will be annihilated by the time potency of the Supreme Lord. Despite our foolish hopes and dreams, there is no actual happiness on the material platform. The real truth is not material, nor is it temporary. Very important. This is very like super important basic yoga philosophy. You know, you won't find joy here because it is temporary matter and it's not the ultimate reality. So because of these 2 things, you can never be fully satisfied. You won't find yourself. You won't be realized if you're still in material consciousness, because it's not the ultimate thing and it's temporary. These 2 things. And then the invitation, yogas give you an invitation to experience the ultimate reality, which is eternal. So the eternal ultimate reality. And that's why the soul feels so much bliss. That's why we all feel so much bliss when we get really into transcendental connection, when we feel bhakti and devotion and we're in transcendental mood, then we feel bliss because you're experiencing reality, the real reality, the ultimate reality, which is eternal. The real truth is called Atma, or eternal soul. Among all eternal souls, one is supreme. He is called the personality of Godhead, and in his original form he is known as Krishna. The knowledge-gathering process culminates in perception of the inconceivable, transcendental form of Krishna. One who is not perceiving Krishna in everything and everything in Krishna is undoubtedly on the platform of mental concoction. In this verse, Krishna warns Uddhava to remain clear of his illusory platform of existence. Okay, verse 8. One whose consciousness is bewildered by illusion perceives many differences in value and meaning among material objects. Thus, one engages constantly on the platform of material good and evil and is bound by such conceptions. Absorbed in material duality, such a person contemplates the performance of compulsory duties, non-performance of such duties, and performance of forbidden activities. So, karma, akarma, vikarma. Very important, these three, karma, akarma, vikarma, mentioned here. Same words Krishna uses in the Bhagavad-gita. In this sense, karma means what you should do. So Krishna uses both here in Uddhava-gita and in the Bhagavad-gita, karma, not in the sense, because karma means action in Sanskrit. Translation just means action. Of course, we understand karma is the law of karma, but so here there's this use of karma in the sense of dharma, what should be done. Normally we also use the word dharma, like what is the right action to be done. So what is the right karma to be done with the right according to your dharma. So karma, dharma, sometimes it overlaps. So here karma, what you should do, your dharma. Your karma aligned with your dharma, your action aligned with your dharma, action, karma. Then you have akarma, which is not action, non-performance, not doing the right thing. You failed to do what you had to do. You had to go to work, you didn't go to work. You had to pay your taxes, you didn't pay your taxes. So not doing what you should do. Akarma, non-action. And then vikarma, the wrong action. So then this as vikarma, like no, that's like the wrong action, like you did the wrong thing. So it's like doing the right thing, just failing to act, and doing the wrong thing, these three things, karma, akarma, and vikarma. Okay? Now, what we really want, though, is another kind of akarma, which Krishna uses in the Bhagavad-gita. He uses this play of words, karma, to say that what you really want to do is practice karma yoga, where you're acting, but you're not accumulating karma. So that's called akarma as well. Akarma is when you're acting in transcendental consciousness, in yajna, in offering, where all your actions are a loving offering to Krishna. That's the basis of Bhagavad-gita knowledge. Karma yoga, doing everything as a loving offering to Krishna. So by doing that, you're acting, but akarma, you're not getting any reaction. You're not accumulating karma anymore. So it's karma without karma. So that's why there's a little play of words Krishna uses in Sanskrit, but it means you're acting without getting. But anyway, the point here is then, he's saying, look, if you don't get this transcendental consciousness, Uddhava, what happens is when people don't get this transcendental consciousness, they just get stuck in the material platform, and then all they think about is, I should do this, I shouldn't do that, this is good, this is bad, and then ultimately, of course there's good and bad. This is going to be like a theme of the Bhagavad-gita, this good and bad thing, like what is really, because ultimately what the point is, of course we understand that there's dharma and adharma, there's things you should do, and you're like, it's nice to be gentle, it's not nice to slap people in their face. So, there's good things and there's bad things, of course, but beyond all this, that's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, verse, the conclusion verse of the Bhagavad-gita, 1866, don't depend on dharma, but come to me alone. Sarva dharmam parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Don't just depend on dharma, because you can't just stay here just on the dharma platform either. That's not enough. Of course, you have to also do your dharma as an offering to Krishna. That's how you're going to get to the transcendental platform. You're here, you're in matter, so that's why I say dharma is your bridge from matter to transcendence. Dharma will take you from matter to transcendence. Because it's by acting according to your Dharma in yajna, in offering to Krishna, in offering to the Lord, in Krishna consciousness, conscious of the Lord as a loving offering. It's called yajna. It's a major sub-theme of the whole yoga path. Yajna. Sometimes pronounced jagya. Offering. Sometimes translated as sacrifice, but that's not a very nice translation. Offering. So everything you do is an offering. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, whatever you do, do that as an offering unto me. Famously, verse 27, chapter 9. Everything you do that as an offering unto me. Whatever you eat, whatever you offer, do that as an offering to me. And that's how you go beyond good and bad, but always practicing good. But he says, no, if you don't do that, if you're not in transcendental consciousness, then you're just going to be stuck here in this material world deciding good, bad, karma, vikarma, and it's not going to get you anywhere. That's what he's basically saying. Purport. The illusory mental platform of existence is described in this verse. The word ayuktasya indicates the conditioned soul who does not fix his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly described in Bhagavad-gita and other Vedic literature that Lord Krishna, the absolute truth, is within everything and everything is within the Lord. The example may be given that when a woman loves a man, she is most eager to see him and she daily sees him dressed in different clothes. Actually, the woman is interested not in the clothes, but in the man. Similarly, within every material object is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one who has developed love of God is constantly seeing the Lord everywhere and not just the superficial material objects that cover the Lord. So it's a bit of a funny example about the woman seeing the man, but the point is good, like the covering. So imagine that everything you're seeing now, as you go about your day, everything you see, every body, everything you see is a covering of the Lord you love. So like Krishna is everywhere and it's just like, oh, there's just happens to be a wall in front. And here is just the deity that he's right in front of you right here. But it's just like, oh, there's a wall here, but behind, within this wall is Krishna, and within this harmonium and this computer. So you can see that's a good practice to like visualize the Lord like that in everything you see. The word ayuktasya in this verse indicates, oh yeah, we did that. No, we didn't do that. We're doing it again. The word ayuktasya in this verse indicates one who has not come to the stage of reality. Such a person, being deprived of loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, attempts to enjoy the innumerable forms and flavors of material experience. This temporary, illusory engagement is not the constitutional function of the bewildered living entity who remains without any awareness of the ultimate reality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this kind of language maybe is sometimes a little hard to digest. So let me just take it apart here for you. The temporary, illusory engagement, so like the stuff you're doing in material world, which we've decided, it's been established, is temporary. I mean, the matter is temporary, right? It's just in constant transformation. The sun's going to blow up. All these things. So the universe is going to collapse again. So everything here is temporary. That we know, right? So everything is temporary. Everything's going to end. So it's temporary. That it's illusory. Okay, that's a philosophy. That's a yoga thing. Like there's something else beyond this. Okay, so this kind of temporary, illusory engagement is not the constitutional function of the bewildered living entity. What does that mean? Constitutional function. And so what it means is, think of about a constitution. What is it made of? What is it constituted? Oh, this constitutes. You've heard this word. So what is it made of? Constitutionally, what is it made of? So the constitutional function of the living entity. So we, souls, what are we really made of? We're made of transcendence. So if I'm made of transcendence, this is not my nature then to be in matter. Do you see? That's what it means. The constitutional function, the function of the soul is to love and serve. And it has nothing to do with matter. That's the ultimate yoga conclusion, right? Like, the end verse of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Shunya Artha, this world has no value. Shunya, zero, Artha, value. The world has just zero value for the soul, Shunya Artha. So as a soul, you have nothing to do with this material world. There's no need of material energy for you. Zero need. So when the soul is engaged in matter, it's not the constitutional nature of the soul. It's not the soul's thing. It's a weird way to use the soul. That's what it means. It's like a weird way of, let's say you get your blender and you use it to like prop up a table. You get like a couple of blender cups and you put a table. That's not a constitutional way of using the blender cup. You can do that, but that's not what it's made for. So it's not going to be very good. And that's what's going on with us here. We're just like, we're using ourselves in a weird way. That's not what we're meant to do. That's why we feel a little at odds. That's why it doesn't feel quite right. The material world, being in material consciousness doesn't feel right. There's always something missing. There's always frustration, can't feel no satisfaction, because that's not what we're made for. Within the world of matter, there are undoubtedly varieties. Among dogs, there are pedigree poodles and common mutts, and among horses, there are thoroughbreds and old gray mares. Similarly, some human beings are beautiful and educated, and others are dull and homely. Some are rich and some are poor. In nature, we find fertile land and sterile land, lush forests and useless deserts, invaluable gems and colorless stones, flowing transparent rivers and stagnant, dirty ponds. In human society, we find happiness and distress, love and hate, victory and defeat, war and peace, life and death, and so on. However, we do not have any permanent relationship with any of these conditions, because we are eternal spirit souls, part and parcel of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedic culture is arranged in such a way that everyone can become perfect in self-realization simply by performing his occupational duty, his dharma, for the pleasure, for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yajna. Sve sve karmani abhirata samsiddhim labate nara. Some conditional souls, however, believe that complete perfection in life may be achieved by performing ordinary, non-spiritual duties on behalf of family, nation, humanity, and so on. Others are interested in neither service of God nor noble mundane activities, and there are others who actively pursue sinful life. Such sinful persons generally rise from bed late in the afternoon and stay awake all night, taking intoxicants and engaging in illicit sex. Such a dark, hellish existence is caused by attraction to tamoguna, the mode of ignorance. Actions in the mode of ignorance are called vikarma, as mentioned in this verse. Unfortunately, neither the materially responsible person can achieve, nor the materially irresponsible person, nor the sinful person can achieve the real perfection of life, Krishna consciousness. So this is the point. This is the point. Neither like the super nice dharmic person, nor the materially irresponsible person, nor the one who's actively sinful, karma, akarma, vikarma. Remember? Doing the right thing, failing to do the right thing, and doing the wrong thing. So none of these, none of them in the material, you have to go beyond. They're all in the material. Of course, it's nicer to have the person doing dharma. Of course we want, that's at least that, right? At least do that much. So yes, at least that. But the fact is, even that is not good enough. It's not good enough just to be a good person, because materially, you're still in material consciousness, you're still going to take rebirth, it's still useless, it's still not the constitutional position of the soul of you. It's still not you being yourself completely. And that's why it doesn't ultimately satisfy even that. Although different societies and different individuals maintain different concepts of good and evil, all material things are ultimately useless in terms of our eternal self-interest, which is Krishna consciousness. And this is the point. This is very important. We're going on here, but this crucial, basic pillar of yoga philosophy to understand. That ultimately this is all useless. All matter, all material endeavors, everything devoid of the connection with transcendence is useless. At best, it will bring you some temporary material joy. At worst, it will bring you temporary pain, suffering. But it's all temporary and it's all useless. We have to go beyond. We have to transcend. That's what yoga is. Transcend. It's the science of transcendence, the spiritual science, how to transcend matter. The idea is expressed by the saintly king Chitraketu in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, verse 20, when he says, Guna pravaha itasmin kashapa konu anugraham kaswargo narakakova kim sukam dukam evavam. This material world resembles the waves of a constantly flowing river. Therefore, what is a curse and what is a favor? What are heavenly planets and what are hellish planets? What is actually happiness and what is actually distress? Because the waves flow constantly, none of them has an eternal effect. Great verse, isn't it? It's a great verse. Yeah, you can have a bit of pleasure, a bit of suffering, but it's all temporary. So of course, in the short term, we're like, oh yeah, I don't want stress, I don't want distress, I want pleasure. Okay, yeah, it's normal, but you have to go, like, what about ultimately? What's the point of having, like, what's going on ultimately? That's what this is all about. That's what Uddhava-gita, Bhagavad, it's all about going beyond matter, beyond the immediate reality here, just going beyond to the ultimate reality. The argument may be given that since in the Vedas there are prescribed and forbidden activities, right? The whole Vedas, dharma, adharma, big topic, right? The Vedas also accept the concept of good and evil within the material world. The fact is, however, that it is not the Vedas themselves, but the conditioned souls who are bound up in material duality. The function of Vedic literature is to engage each individual at a particular level on which he or she is presently situated and gradually elevate them to the perfection of life, yoga. The material mode of goodness, sattva guna, is not itself spiritual, but it does not impede spiritual life. It's a very good quote here. Sattva guna, which is what we're aiming for as well. Krishna recommends here in Bhagavad-gita too. So sattva guna is not spiritual consciousness, but it doesn't impede spiritual consciousness. It's the platform from which you can experience spiritual consciousness. Do you understand? It's where you go in this matter to reach spiritual consciousness. The other modes, Rajaguna and Tamaguna, they will impede your spiritual consciousness. And that's why we avoid them. Since the material mode of goodness, sattva guna, purifies one's consciousness and creates a hankering for higher knowledge, it is a favorable platform from which to pursue spiritual life. Just as the airport is a favorable place from which to travel. If a person desires to travel from New York to London, the New York airport is certainly the most favorable place from which to travel. But if the person misses their plane, he is no closer to London than anyone in New York who did not go to the airport. In other words, the advantage of the airport is meaningful only if one catches the plane. Similarly, the material mode of goodness is the most favorable situation from which to move up to the spiritual platform. The Vedas describe and forbid various activities to lift the conditioned soul to the material mode of goodness. And from that point, he or she should rise to the spiritual platform by transcendental knowledge. Therefore, if one does not come to the platform of Krishna consciousness, his or her elevation to the material mode of goodness is useless. Just as a trip to the airport is useless for one who misses the plane. In the Vedas, there are injunctions and prohibitions that appear to accept good and evil among material things, but the ultimate purpose of the Vedic regulations is to create a favorable situation for spiritual life. If one can immediately take to spiritual life, then there's no need to waste time with rituals within the modes of nature. Therefore, Krishna advises Arjuna in Bhagavad-gita, verse 45, chapter 2. Traiguna vishayi vedha nistragunyo bhavarjuna nirdvando nitya sattvasto niryoga kshema atmavan. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna. Be transcendental to all of them. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. This is what Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad-gita. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya has quoted the following verses from Mahabharata. So Madhvacharya is a guru in our disciplic succession from hundreds and hundreds of years ago, about 800 years ago. Swargadyascha guna sarve dosha sarve tatevacha atmana kartrita bharantya jayante natra samshaya. Within the material world, the conditioned souls considered residents on the heavenly planets and celestial pleasures, such as the pious enjoyment of beautiful women, to be good and desirable things. Similarly, painful or miserable conditions are considered to be evil or bad. However, all such perceptions of good and bad in the material world is undoubtedly based upon the fundamental mistake of considering oneself and not the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate doer or performer of all actions. Paramatmanam vivekam kartaram vityapumam samuchate smat samsarad paramatmanam eticham. On the other hand, a person who knows that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the actual controller of material nature, and that is ultimately He who is moving everything, can free himself or herself from the bondage of material existence. Such a person goes to the abode of the Lord. All right, so that was beautiful verses. We saw their beautiful purports, and I hope you understood everything. If you haven't, leave your question below. I always love hearing from you guys, leaving your questions. Don't forget to share this course. It's a wonderful course. Hundreds of classes. Uddhava-gita is amazing. Not enough people talk about the Uddhava-gita. So please invite your friends and share this series with them as well. Have a wonderful day with lots of love and lots of peace.